reviews. Freshly seasoned is an interview with Bob Hirt and Carter Gasiorowski, both fantastic birders, one somewhat older than the other, one somewhat younger, and they have vastly different perspectives, and they have a lot to tell us about. But I want to introduce them first before I ask the questions. So, Carter, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to introduce you. I learned your name first on South Bay Birds. I didn't know who you were. You just seemed like a new name. You seem extremely knowledgeable and very gracious with your knowledge, and also very generous with your knowledge, and gracious when helping others learn from the community. And you're also eager to accept advice and information from others. I mean, you're basically the perfect birder. You're a photographer. You play the flute and the piccolo. What level are you in school?
I'm going to be a junior next year in high school.
Okay, fantastic. So you got start birding a little bit earlier than I did, and it's clear that those additional years put you way ahead of where I was when I was a junior in high school. You also play tennis too, which is I just learned the other day. So kind of an amazing young man. So we're going to talk to Carter in a moment, and we're going to talk to Bob, who, as I've mentioned before, I've known for years. He helped me apply. He encouraged me to apply for this position at SCVAS. He's been birding since the 70s, been bird watching since the 50s. He makes a distinction between those two, which he'll probably tell us about. He was the organizer of Pterodroma pelagic trips out of Monterey, I believe. It routinely went on deep sea voyages in search of rare pelagic species. So he has a lot of experience offshore and on land. For years, he led trips for Audubon to Honey Lake in search of greater sage grouse. So an amazing resource for information, a generous person with his knowledge, a kind person, and easy to talk to, and so much fun to bird with. And I could say the same thing about Carter. So Bob, I want to start with you, if I might. Tell us how and when you started birding, and what you had a spark bird or a spark experience that really made it mandatory for you to continue.
Well, like I say, I make a distinction between bird watching, which I think is the love of just watching the beauty and elegance of birds, period, without any of the statistics behind it or any of the technical stuff, just enjoying the birds themselves. And I've been doing that since I was 8 years old. My dad had a bird book, a pair of binoculars and feeders. And whenever something unusual came into the yard, he would write down the date and what it was. And he'd call everybody to the window, and we'd look in the binoculars. And spark birds, I guess, cedar waxwings, when you finally see them up close and through binoculars, are fabulous birds. And, we didn't have that many incredible birds, but we'd get excited if a pheasant would trot through the backyard. So it was a lot of fun. I took that enjoyment and just the fact that I wanted to know what these things were, whether it was trees or plants or flowers. I wanted to know what they were, and I wanted to put a name on them. So, that was sort of the beginning of it. But birding didn't really occur until I got to California. I'd picked up, when I was in the Navy, I picked up a pair of binoculars at the Navy Exchange and bought the old Golden Guide, if you can remember that thing. Yeah. And I kept it all the way through that time, and I would write down anything I saw on the date in the book, and it's the same old book. And like I say, I'm not a lister, but I do sort of keep track of it. My Golden Guide is swelled with marginal notes because the birds we were seeing birds afterwards that aren't in the book, mm-hmm. So you had to really make an effort. But I got out here and I got birding with a guy I worked with, and he turned it into a competition before I knew anything was going on. We went on a trip to the Sierra backpacking, and I was in charge of recording the number of birds, and he was in charge of mammals or something easy. And we got back, and he said, I think how many species of birds did we see? And I told him, I said, I think we had about 23 or 24 species on the backpacking trip. And he said, well, I went out last weekend and I saw 20 more species. So I've got now 45 species. And I said, okay, let me see what might be. I went out, my neighbor came back. I had 75 by the time I talked to him next. And we went back and forth like that for a while. And at one point in time, he said, I've got 130. I said, well, how did you get up to that? He said, well, I went on an Audubon Society field trip, and we saw a lot of birds that you hadn't seen before. I said, well, I'm going to do the same thing. So I joined Audubon and caught up with it and passed them again. So that was the beginning of birding for me. Yeah. And what was the trigger bird? It was more of a trigger of a competition. Yeah. And that's why I say the difference between keeping a list and competing with the other people. That's kind of the fun. That's the sport.
Yeah.
And bird watching is just sitting back and enjoying. Birding, I don't like to do solo. Bird watching, I enjoy doing solo.
Yeah.
I like the social aspects of birding.
Well, let's hear from Carter a little bit. So, how did you get started? When did you get started? And what was your spark bird or experience?
I think that's just a wonderful story that Bob told about the competition and starting with those birds on the feeder. And I think it's a little bit similar for me. My mom's ex-boss and good friend from Texas is an avid birder. He's traveled across North America, has a pretty large life list. And she was very sweet. When I was very little, like only about 2 years old, she got together a bunch of photos of birds around California that I might see. And she put them together in this little like photo album and put a piece of paper with the bird's name and what it ate and mailed it all the way from Texas to California as a Christmas present for me when I was little, only 2 years old. And then obviously it's too young for me to remember, but my mom has a photo of it. I'm laying on the bed about 2.5 years old and just looking at all the photos of birds. And maybe like that just subconsciously started a spark, because I do remember every so often I'd take it off the shelf and look through that book and see all the birds. Then one day my mom got kind of a real field guide for me. And I saw, not long after that, I was looking out the window and I saw a bird land on the lawn chair, and it was black, had a crest, white belly, was flicking its tail. And I looked through the book and I ran to tell my mom. I was so excited. I was like, Mommy, I saw a black-bill ebba. So I didn't know how to pronounce it. Yeah.
Great story.
Yes. And then that was about when I was 5.5-ish. And then ever since then, I think I just got hooked on birding and was loving it. And I also really like, Bob, your distinction between birding and bird watching. I've been bird watching probably since then. And then really just in 2020 when COVID hit, had so much more time. Mm-hmm. And then I was just at home all day. I would look at so many different resources, learn from so many knowledgeable people in our local community and in the national community, and really started to want to learn as much as I could about identification. Then in 2021, I'm like, okay, never going to have this much free time again in my life, probably. So then just decided to do like a big year in Santa Clara County, which I just had so much fun just getting to know the county. But more importantly than that, it was all the wonderful people I met along the way, like just going to a rarity stakeout, and there'd be so many people there just eager and excited to help me find the bird. And it was even more satisfying to repay the favor and show a bird that someone had never seen before and just see their face light up with the same excitement that so many other people had brought to me by all the help they'd given me. Yeah. So I think that's really what started me and always keeps me interested in birding.
You both actually kind of answered the first two questions, really. We've talked about how it was you got started and what your spark experience was, but you've also told us what you really love about birding. Bob, you and I share something, and the ability to put a name on a bird is kind of what got me started when I and I identified my first cardinal. That was magic at the time. And Carter, you're talking about meeting people and seeing the beauty of the birds. Um, and your challenge, your big year in Santa Clara County. What was your total, your finishing number? Do you recall?
Well, in the end, I got to 253 for 2021 in Santa Clara. And, I didn't really come up with the idea to go for a high number until like later on in the year when I realized I was getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, okay, and then I set 250 as a goal.
I remember
it was
that.
So, yeah, wonderful, exciting. And then you were there on the evening when I got to 250th bird, the short-eared owl at Bixby Park.
Mm-hmm.
That was just so exciting. And then I kept going after that and got the 3 more, and it was wonderful.
The annual big year, or the county year. I didn't used to participate in that very much, but eBird made it so easy to see how many birds you've seen in a year or in a county, and now I definitely do it each year, and I try to keep the competition only with myself. Like, can I surpass my last year? But sometimes that competition creeps in a little bit too, and we start competing with other birders, and that's fun too. You meet a lot of people. So my next question is, how do you, Bob, how do you think that we can empower more birders like yourselves? I mean, what do veteran birders like yourself, what are you looking for in Audubon? What are you looking for in field trips? How can we keep that energy that you have now going indefinitely?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, I think in high school, I think there's a lot of a competitive feeling that wells up inside you. So, if we could get a high school team versus another high school team, if we could, it would almost be like a high school sport. And I think that would bring so many people in, and it would open so many eyes to the wonder of birding and the competition. You gotta get over the fact that, yeah, we're just looking at birds, and you got to get beyond that and say, yeah, but we're going to beat that other high school, whether it's Cupertino versus Lynbrook or whatever, or, or down here Pioneer versus some Lowell or some other team. I just think that that's pretty important. I've gotten obviously past that now, and I just think it'd be a lot of fun to get the kids board in that, and of course they'd automatically learn. And once you're out there, you're going to get an appreciation for nature and habitat protection and all the things that we think are really critical.
I think we could take that idea and turn it into a company versus company sort of competition too, like a Facebook team versus a LinkedIn team or a Google team. We've got birders that work in each of those companies. If we could get them to compete with each other, I think that would be really exciting. Facebook has got the rooftop, which is quite a good birding location. But anyway, that would be great. And Carter, what do you think that the rest of us can do to encourage and empower young birders like yourself?
I think that the birding community, once I got involved, was just already so wonderful and encouraging and empowering, as you said. Like, for example, during the big year that I was doing, frequently, like, people who were above me in ranking would go out of their way to let me know about rare birds that I needed for my list and where to find them and help me find them. And that happened for so many people, and that was really nice. And just the wealth of knowledge that I learned from pretty much all the people on this call tonight, I recognize. And another wonderful thing is how, I remember when Massimo first proposed the idea of the Discord server to South Bay birds, it was initially met with a little bit of pushback from people who maybe don't see, who are happy with the way things are. And then the way that the leaders of the community just absolutely rallied behind him and the young spirit and made that new Discord server we have wonderful community. And we've had so many good discussions there. It's a great place for especially younger birders to interact and understand more of what the birding community is like, especially if it's hard to find the time to go on a field trip or something like that. You can just do that right from your own home. So I think that's been really wonderful.
Yeah, I think the Discord idea and the execution of it has been spectacular for the entire community, old and young. But what I'm hearing from you is that it's the openness of the community to talk to and learn from each other. And I think that's many of us kind of go into a birding zone where we put our blinders on, we focus quietly on our quest. And I've come to really try to come out of that and talk to people, talk to everybody I meet. Did you know that this is right over there, or what are you looking for today? And I've had so many wonderful conversations, and I know you have too. So that's encouraging. You don't feel like the young birding community is held back in any way. It's being encouraged by people around you. Sounds like.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, good.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right. So both of you, Bob, have you had a favorite encounter with a younger birder?
Oh yeah. Recently, right now my favorite encounter is finding a bench to sit on. But my favorite encounter with younger birders, like we were looking for the Williamson sapsucker, and Ozzy Altos, he was running all over the place. He was just going. There's no way I could keep up, but he found them several times. It would move, and he'd find it. I think it was Carter found the black pole a couple times. We couldn't see where it had gone. The another young birder was the first one to spot the bay-breasted warbler that was over in Vistona. So I just love hanging around the younger birders because they've got the energy. They're going to find the bird. They got great eyes and great ears.
I think that was Max
Max.
Benningfield.
Yeah.
Max Benningfield. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Carter, have you had a favorite encounter with an older birder in your career as a birder?
Oh, I have, yeah. And this was a long time ago when I was first getting started in birding. It's probably, must have been like 10 at the time, long before I was on South Bay Birds or met Matthew or anyone here. And I was with Jana Pauser, who we'd met. Well, first I should give the story of just how wonderful she was to us. We were, my mom's friends from Texas who made me the bird book were coming, and she needed Vos Swift or Vox's Swift for her life list. And then my mom was just on South Bay Birds and saw that Jana had posted that Vox's Swifts were at Las Capuchencios ponds, but I didn't have a whole lot of description. So then my mom just emails Jana, and Jana has no idea who this woman is. And she just gives the most wonderfully descriptive reply of where to find him. And then she says, "Oh yeah, I'll be here at this time if you want me to help you go look for him." And we're like, "Oh wow, okay."
Oh, that's
just a second. I think my dog wants to get on the call too.
Yeah, Jana is truly wonderful. She was spoken at the Birdathon wrap up, and she's been a birder for a good many years. Do you have any closing thoughts, either of you? Bob, any closing thoughts about what young birders and old birders can learn from each other? Or
well, yeah, I just think we have to go out there and do our best each and every day, and get out there. You're out there enjoying nature. Share your knowledge. Share the location of the bird. Share anything you can, and be social. Just have fun with this, and then take that appreciation and turn it into conservation.
I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's so well said.
Carter, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think the thing that makes birding me is sometimes it is great to just relax and be peaceful with only nature around you. But the thing that really makes birding wonderful for me is just the people And I think it's great to just keep that in mind, and they remember that's the most important thing. It's always good to talk to people you meet and make a connection, and that just makes any of the birds you see just even more wonderful and more memorable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is a social community, and we do each other a real service when we remember that, and open ourselves up to other people's ideas, and share our knowledge. So I want to thank you both for being here tonight, and answering these silly questions, because you did both such a great job of summarizing your perspective, and sharing your enthusiasm and your love of this pursuit, this birding that we all love so much. So thank you both. We'll do this again, and but you've done exactly what I hope you would do, and really enlightened us all. So with that, yes, Bob?
Thank you for having us. It was our pleasure.
It was
my pleasure.
Oh yeah. And one last thought on Bob. Just the last thought on Bob's spirit of competition. The fledglings birdathon team are coming to get number 1 from the rock wrens in the next birdathon.
Yeah, do it. That's great. Watch out, Bob. All right, so let's.
The rocks are gathering a little moss, so they'll probably.
Well, yeah, maybe. Anyway, it's good to know the challenge is alive and well. So.